Carly is filling in for Kate this evening, so she'll be doing Kate's job. So welcome, Carly. Other than that, approval of minutes. If anybody'd like to approve the minutes, now is your opportunity. Rylan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Chad
I'll second Ryland's motion.
and Dave.
Yeah, it's
Oh, it's 2 meetings. Okay. Well, we'll take the regular meeting first. It's one we're on. So with that, we have a motion and a second on the floor for a regular meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then our special meeting, if somebody'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes, we can do those at the same time, at this time. So special meeting minutes, Chad, go ahead, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from
Okay.
last week.
Motion made. Is there a second to that motion? Matt?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Matthew. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. That moves us down to public hearings. Tonight, we have a public hearing on regarding ordinance 2024-07, ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 11 to adjust the extent of the legally defined areas. Public hearing is a portion where anybody can come to the podium, turn on the microphone and speak on the public hearing. Dave, if you'd bring us up to speed and we can take it from there.
Yeah, so you have before you tonight this public hearing, and then an agenda item 5A is a ordinance that you may consider approval on. The legally defined area is essentially a subset of your B1 zone. Burger King, or their owner of Burger King, has requested that their entire property be added to the legally defined area. Right now, it's only the north half of their parcel, and it's posing problems for them as they look to remove and reconstruct the restaurant in the present location. So there is an individual here from the engineering firm, and then obviously there may be other public comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schofield. Again, public hearing is open. You can either speak during public hearing or in public comments, but public hearing is now open. If anybody'd like to come forward, you can do so at this time. Sure. Give us your name and your address too, please. Oh, I don't need. Oh, you got a microphone.
Working now. All right. I'm Ben Warnches with Excel Engineering. I represent Cave Enterprises, who's looking to redevelop the Burger King site. They would like to demolish the existing building and then rebuild a new one, freshening up the building and the site, providing new parking lot, a new exterior playground, and just overall making the landscaping and just overall making the site, freshening it up, making it nicer. So more efficient, nicer, that sort of thing. So I'm here for any questions. Really, we're looking for the legally defined area to be updated so that the entirety of the site, currently just the north half is within the legally defined area. And then the south half, really what it does is we've got two different sets of setbacks that the property is subject to with the two different zoning classifications. So we're just looking to consolidate and get the entire property within the one single legally defined area. So again, here for any questions if there are any.
Ben, could I get your spelling of your last name?
Yeah, it's WARNTJES.
And then could you sign in too? I think there's a register up there.
Yep, I'm signed in here.
Oh, you are? Okay, great. And we may have questions for you, so
Okay, sounds
hang
good.
on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, public hearing is now open. If anybody else would like to speak. Last call for public hearings. Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion and move on with the rest of our meeting. Under public comments is a portion of our meeting where anybody can speak for 3 minutes or less. Please give us your name and your address.
My name's Emily Wee, 621 West Elm Avenue, Menomonie. Now I get to speak?
You can speak, yes, for 3 minutes or less.
Easy. I just want to talk about Let's Paint the Town this year. It's amazing. It is getting so big. It's scary. This year we have polka bands, we have bingo hosted by the Moose Lodge. We have like 200 vendors. We only had 100 last year. We have all kinds of food vendors. We have a car show. You name it, we have it. And we're anticipating a minimum of between 5,000 and 7,000 people here. We are beginning to really bring in a lot of people from even out of the state. The vendors are from like Wausau, I know that's in the state, but Milwaukee, Iowa, Minnesota. I mean, we're putting Menomonie on the map, and I'm really appreciative of all of your support. If you
Oh.
have any questions, let me,
So you're going to be here during the meeting. So if we have questions when we get to the Let's Paint the Town
Yes, sir.
portion, we can ask your questions?
yes,
Great. Thank you, Emily. You kept it pretty short. Thank you.
I know it's a record.
I was. Good job. Okay, anybody else want to speak in public comments?
Evening. My name is Eric Schultz. I'm the president of the ATV Association here in Dunn County. Dave asked me to come down and kind of represent. I guess if you guys got any questions, I appreciate the opportunity and to get everything opened up here in town. I think it is going to be or can be a big improvement to your economic side of things in town with different gas stations, restaurants, et cetera. As the association, we get several phone calls a month from residents of the city here. How can we get this open? Where can we go? What can we do? And it's like, well, call your representatives because we can't answer that. I think it'd be a good thing. And if you do have any questions on any of the stuff, I'll do my best to answer what I can, and I'll stick around for the rest of it here.
Eric, I just have one quick, what organization are you representing tonight?
The Dunn County ATV Association.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, public comment is open. If anybody else would like to speak, now is your opportunity to do so.
Ron Larson, 2707 Cherry Blossom Lane, Menomonie. Tell you a little bit about me. I'm a local boy. I was in business here for 35 years with Lehman Larson Beer Distributors. Retired now, enjoying my part of my life, ATVing. So something that I found, which is really nice. You know, Menomonie has got bike trails, they've got walking trails, we've got nice parks. We got the tech park. You know, Menomonie's just about got everything. I live in a new development out here in Shorewood Heights, and I was one of the first homes to be built there. Right now, I'm 1.5 miles from the trail. Every day, I have to load up my ATV, take it out 1.5 miles to get the trail. It's a problem when you're older. It's just a problem with everybody having to have a trailer in town. You know, the biggest problem is here. We've got all this. We live in town. We can't get out of town or in town without trailering. So I think it would be a great idea to do this. One thing people talked about noise. If you think about a busy city is noisy. I mean, we got fire trucks, we got sirens, I got helicopters, we got an airport, we got semis. There's everything, snowblowers. You know, these will not add any noise to the city, I do not believe. Because people are not going to come into the city and drive around. They want a way in and a way out. My own personal situation here is my wife has a start of COPD. She can't walk very good. So this is a new way of life for her. We can jump on this, head out into the country, really enjoy the scenery. So I think by opening the city up, it would mean a lot for the city. And because the county roads are open, and my suggestion would be to open it up for a year. And after a year, take a look at it. And if it doesn't, if you open it up and there's something that's not working right, do something about it right now. Put up a no ATV sign and people will respect that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Public comment is open again. If anybody else would like to speak, come on up.
Good evening, I'm Dustin Shackleton. E5856, 800th Avenue, Menomonie, Wisconsin. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and being here. I would strongly encourage you guys to consider opening this up. I think it would be an economic impact, but also there's a lot of people in this town that are trying to get out, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they do. It's not so much necessarily riding through, but being able to get from their homes out of town. And since we've gotten the county opened up, we've had very little, if any, issues. It's went well. We've got good feedback, and I haven't heard of any issues, and I would strongly encourage you to consider opening it up, and I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Okay, public comments?
Hi, I'm Rainey Smeltzer, E6425 County Road D, Colfax, Wisconsin. I apologize. I'm here on behalf of my husband, Randy Smeltzer, whom some of you may have had the pleasure of meeting. I lost him 16 months ago. This was a promise that he had me make, not only me, but two others behind me, that he worked so hard to try and get routes opened up in the county, and we managed to do that. And I know he talked to some of you and maybe not that many of you a few years ago, and was working very diligently to try and get things so we could get into the city, be able to patronize places here in the city, make it easier with the county now being open to just get through. This was his dream, and I'm just here to hopefully fulfill the promise that he made me make to him. And I thank you all so much for at least listening to us. I would ask that you would give us a chance to prove ourselves on a trial basis. If that's what it takes, that's fine. But if you would just please give us some good consideration to be able to come in and through the city and patronize businesses here also, like we do in the county. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Smeltzer. Yes, Randy pushed hard for ATV routes, UTV routes. And without his diligence, I don't think the county would have got opened up. I know that I talked to him several times. Now that the county is opened up, of course, it does afford us to take a look at it. So with that, public comments is still open. If anybody else would like to speak, now is the opportunity. Last chance for public comments. Okay, we're going to close public comments and move on with the rest of our meeting. Under 5A, ordinance 2024-07, an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 11 to adjust the extent of legally defined areas. Discussion, possible waiver of this first reading, possible waiver of the second reading, and motion possible adoption. I don't know, do we need to go further into this, Dave? You got a map up.
Yeah, if we could, I'd just like to share this map. So this is the legally defined area. The black lines are the original boundary as of 2022.
Take this.
The yellow area, just west of Wilson Park, was added, I believe, in August of 2023. Burger King is now requesting that the red area be added. So it's consistent, or at least adjacent to the other portions of a legally defined area. And again, they have a single lot that is partially in and partially out. And so the change that is being made in the ordinance is to just say all of lot 1 of CSM 308.
Okay, thank you, David. Yes, and Plan Commission did favorably recommend this to be approved. Gretchen, go ahead.
I'd like to waive the first reading of ordinance 2024-07, amending Title 10, Chapter 11 to adjust the extent of the legally defined area.
Okay, motion's been made to waive the first reading. Is there a second to that, Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to waive the first reading. Any discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And now we need a motion to waive the second reading. If somebody'd like to do so, we can do that. Go ahead, Cody.
I'll move to waive the second reading of ordinance 2024-07.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Go ahead, Matthew.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, now we need a motion to adopt said ordinance. If somebody'd like to make that motion, we can do that at this time. Okay. Chad?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt that ordinance.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion? Randy?
I'll second Chad's motion.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to adopt the ordinance. Any discussion before we move forward? Okay, all in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to 6A, new business, review of the preliminary designed ATV route map. David, you have that at your disposal, correct? And do you want to talk about it? Okay. Okay, Mr. Schofield has done some design work on this map. How this falls is this way. We need to be able to put a dedicated map together. Then we need to send it off to DOT for approval. If that's correct, David? Stop me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Okay. And then it comes back to this body. So what we're really looking for is for you to take a look at this map tonight and see if this is a usable map of roads and so forth that can be sent off to the DOT. There could be some roads that are excluded from ATV, UTV use. And there are some that could be included but may not be. So with that, David, if you want to move forward.
Yeah, so on the screen here and then also in your packet, there's an existing ATV route map. So this is what was approved, I believe, in 2022. There's a small area in the northeast corner of the town, smaller area in the northwest corner of town, and then out to Dean and Sue's, and then a short area, I think, coming into Circle C gas station. So just for reference purposes, this is the existing map that exists as of today. The map that is before you tonight, and again, as the mayor said, this is only for, are you generally okay with this map? This is not approval of the changing of the ordinance. This is just, we want to make sure that the council is generally on board with this before we spend the time and attorney's fees to put together an ordinance that may or may not have a chance of success. So before you tonight here is a map showing that we would open all streets in the city of Menomonie except for certain areas. And if you're okay, this may take me a little bit while, but I think it's worth going through. Obviously, we can't allow ATVs on Highway 94. That would be a poor choice. Oh, I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. Broadway Street, north of Tanner Street. So this is US Highway 12, State Highway 25. North of Tanner Street, all the way to the city limits would be excluded from ATVs. That's a high volume, relatively high speed roadway, especially as you get towards the north end of the city. That's a 5-lane road with the twiddle in it. That would be excluded as well from ATVs. ATVs could cross this route, but they could not drive along this route. Highway 12 in 2 locations. As you go west here, from the city limits to Oak Avenue and from Heller Road to Broadway. Again, those 2 stretches, relatively high volume, certainly north of Oak Avenue, that gets into 45 miles an hour in that stretch. We would ask for this one chunk of 12 from Heller to Oak to be included so that there's a connection from Heller Road, which is town of Menomonie's ATV route, into connect in without having to go on Highway 12 in this location, and particularly to the intersection of Broadway and Pine. That's a very, as you well know, it's a very busy intersection, and to add a number of vehicles with folks on it without protection would be a poor choice in my opinion. The Junction Trail from Cedar Falls Road all the way to Broadway would be excluded as well. All trails would be excluded, but I felt like there was a couple of these that we wanted to show in particular because they're maybe a little bit, they're not right against the roadway, and so it wasn't necessarily, some people may misunderstand that they're not an ATV route. So I included Junction Trail as an exclusion. And then the Lake Menomonie Loop as well. So from Pine Avenue over to Stokey Parkway, that would be excluded as well. Going south and a little bit west, Highway 29 from the city limits into Hoffland Road / Brickyard Road East. That would be excluded. As you get out past Brickyard Road West, this is actually a 55-mile-an-hour roadway, and I'm sure the chief won't like me saying this, but people may go faster than 55 on that roadway. And so that would be a poor spot to have ATVs running along the route. Again, they can cross it, so they'd be able to cross at the intersection of Meadow Hill Drive and Midway, but they wouldn't be able to run across or run along that. And then coming into town, the Stokey Trail / Junction Trail that turns into the Red Cedar State Trail. Sorry about that. That would also be excluded. Again, that's a bike path that was constructed on top of a railroad bed. We would not want ATVs on that stretch there. Then 29 from Riverview Drive, River Road up to Broadway, that would be excluded as well. The intersection of Fifth Street West and Highway 29 there is a little bit congested, particularly as school gets out. And so it add additional vehicles in that location, I don't think would be appropriate. Folks that are coming across the bridge would immediately have to get off on either River Road to the north or Riverview to the south. And they could jump onto Wilson as well. Then kind of going south, and I'll work my way to the east, Broadway from First Avenue. So that's that first bridge right near the student health building at UW's campus. First Avenue all the way to the south city limits, that would be excluded. So Broadway would be excluded everywhere throughout the city except from Tanner Street to First Avenue. That would be the only stretch. That's probably about a quarter mile, maybe a little more. That's the only stretch, and that's really only included because we want people to be able to work their way from north to south, from North Menomonie to the center of the
Be
city.
able to cross the bridge.
They'll be able to cross the bridge.
Correct. Do you want to just elaborate too on speed zones? 35 mile an hours, we can normally accept them if we wanted to. 45 miles an hour plus, we can't or aren't
Correct.
able to.
Anything over 35 miles an hour on the state highway, the DOT has to approve. And in talking with the folks at DOT, they were particularly out at, let's say, on the 29 west of town where it was 55 miles an hour. They did not feel as though that was likely to be approved.
And it would be up to the city to decide if a traffic count is too high to, for ATVs, UTVs and so forth and so on. So best recognition on what areas could be problematic or acceptable. That's why Dave Schofield spent a fair amount of time on this. He has been talking with the DOT for guidance. We also have Chief Hollister here. And if we could invite him up to give a 30-second overview on his thoughts on UTVs, ATVs, that might be well received as well. So Chief, please, Chief, if you want to come on up just to talk for 30 seconds on no. Well, we just want to hear your viewpoint on, are these zones that Mr. Schofield has put forward, do they make sense from your standpoint of view? Would there be any additions or deletions from what he has put together?
David's done a really good job with this, and it's always good working with him for these kind of issues. As I look at it, I think we all agree by opening up the streets, your businesses are all going to be accessed so forth, then your recreation is gonna probably expand for that area of ATVs. As far as for the police department, and looking at through that lens, I just think it's important that if this moves through tonight, that when we craft or draft the ordinance language, that it's specific to the city of Menomonie. It's very important. I mean, if we look at it, what our population is, we got the biggest population in the city, or in Dunn County. We've got a substantial college population. We've got the workforce daytime population that swells the area. So by having an ordinance that's crafted that we can work with for compliance and enforcement, that would be very helpful for us. Some other considerations to look at would be when you're gonna run ATVs. Is it through when the trails open up through the season and then you close in the winter months? Hours of day, do you want ATVs running at midnight, 2 in the morning or so forth? So a lot of considerations that way when we look at the ordinance part. So again, my theme is to craft it so it's specific to the city of Menomonie when we get to that portion.
That was pretty good, 45 seconds. Well, thank you, Chief. I know the county hasn't had a great deal of issues with the ATVs, UTVs. I know that the city is looking at this. We have been looking at this, but we wanted to make sure we've piggybacked on the county first. I would recommend that tonight we move forward with any changes that need to be made and the map itself. And then we'll work with the ordinance through this body. And then at that point, make the changes and bring the ordinance back to y'all and see what you think. Time changes, time allotments, what time of the year is this? Is it 24/7, 365, or is it October through whenever, or what's going to be put in that ordinance? But for tonight, what we really need to do is know, do you want to move ahead and craft an ordinance? And is this map acceptable with the way it is, or is there some major changes that y'all think we should be making to this map before we move forward? I think that's correct, David?
Yep.
Eric? Yes. Okay, thank you. Mary?
So if I understand it right, the red roads, highways, cannot be traveled on, but you can cross them
David?
That
at
is
all
correct.
locations?
Yes.
Okay.
And that also includes roads and trails. No trails, no trails at all will be allowed. So, Jeff?
I'd like to make the motion to direct the city staff to prepare a draft ordinance amending city code 6-1-12 based upon the proposed designated ATV route map dated April 30th, 2024.
Okay, Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Gretchen?
I have multiple questions. So when I approached this, I approached it from the aspects trying to, benefits and costs and detriments, trying to play them off each other. And I work at Stout and I have high school students in my family and interact with them. So I was also approaching it, and I'm also a very densely streeted ward in the city. And so I was trying to approach it if we had access from like the number of Stout students that are gonna jump on this and use ATVs to get to campus through uncontrolled intersections is a worry for me with safety. And then the number of high school students that will jump on this to use to get to school and the congestion times with regards to safety. But my first question is, are we talking about street legal ATVs, which would heavily limit the use of this? Or are we talking about any ATVs
I
that
can
aren't street approved?
start to answer some of those questions. Number one is blinkers, headlights, taillights would be needed. Two, well, I don't think the entire town is going to come out and all of a sudden there's going to be 1 million, ATVs and UTVs. Randy Knack and the Mayor Knack both argue about certain points. On this particular issue, I think that we are both in agreement that this would be good for the community. There's a lot of communities out there that are going this direction. They're becoming a part of life, especially for some of the retired people. But part of the problem is, and I know it's been brought up to me, is why don't we just do certain routes? Well, if you do certain routes, that excludes part of the population from being able to use it, number one. Number two is those routes get heavier used and doesn't spread any mass across the entire city. So I don't know as if it's going to be a major problem for the community, for either Stout students or high school students. I know we haven't set any parameters on this because we still have to get approvals from the state. But when it gets down to an actual ordinance, the times that'll be set, will it be 8 in the morning till dusk, or will it be from April 1st to October 1st, or will it be all year? Those are all finite pieces of information that the administration, staff, attorney firm will have to draft, and then you all have to pick that apart. So that's kind of where we're at tonight, is just
Yep.
moving this forward to the next level.
I also looked into, I did speak with a student that Owatonna has this allowed. But theirs are, very strict, like who can use it. I was thinking about, also, I looked up, ATV decibel levels, and they are routinely above the danger level of 85. It's usually 90 to 100 decibels, which is an increase in noise. I also reviewed the pollution, and your standard ATV currently is 50 times more pollution than a standard vehicle currently. And I feel with our goals in the city, that seems to be going in the incorrect direction. And it could expand. It could be, when you create a community that allows that, and especially if communities around us don't, and it becomes a certain type of destination, it starts to exclude the other access points. And ATVs are not increasing walking and biking does not have as much effect as increasing ATV traffic, especially with regards to parking and other things. I see the like for the folks that have ATVs, I do definitely understand. And my 15-year-old definitely was excited about the prospect of having an ATV at the house and, cruising out hunting. He was very excited about that thought. And but because I live where I live is very impactful. If we did approve it, I would very much appreciate that bar close isn't anywhere near the end time for ATV use, because that would be an obvious thing that would occur. And I really would like to focus on the safety aspect and the enforcement aspect and the signage costs, any additional costs to the city as well.
Great. All good points. We're going to bring all that stuff back to you. Meanwhile, you can go shopping maybe for a brand new ATV for your son.
No. He will buy his own.
Well, and in a few years, there's going to be electric ATV, UTVs out. So electric is coming on strong. So hopefully that'll remedy some of those issues that you spoke about, Rylan.
I guess I have some of the same concerns as Gretchen, having a 17-year-old that likes to crash stuff and, has some interesting stories about, who crashed into who in the high school parking lot. And I can only imagine what adding ATVs in with, minimum amount of safety other than, some thin plastic doors and, that seems like if we're going to add anywhere onto the map to limit use of them around the high school, seems like a good area to add, just from a safety standpoint.
Well, that could be something. We did talk about some of that. I'm glad I never lived through that era, being crazy and having fun. But I know that kids are kids, and there's certain restrictions. Maybe it's age 16 with a driver's license. Maybe it's different scenarios like that. I think tonight, and we could talk about that as far as the high school, but we did talk about the high school and Stout, and we didn't feel that enough would be put into play. It's schools out for 3, 4 months of the year and such. But you bring up good points, and these are all points to consider. I think we can probably take parts off of the map later, but we wouldn't be able to add parts into the map. Is that an accurate statement, David?
Yeah, but we could certainly add additional exclusions at a later date. I would just caution if we're gonna remove like a block here and a block there, how are we gonna enforce that? How are we gonna sign that?
Yeah.
I think that would be difficult to remove like little moats around high school, for instance.
Well, and the mayor's argument with Randy Knack is either it's all or nothing. Either we open up the city or we don't open it up at all. Because of the enforcement level, the neighbors that can't get to a trail and so forth and so on. So I'm supportive. If we're going to do this, we open the whole thing up but we put a year sunset. We review it in a year. And in a year's time, we say, oh, this is a problem area, or this wasn't a problem and maybe we can enhance it. So I'd say whatever we do in the ordinance, we put that year on. Lee.
As far as Ryland's concerned about the school, can't the school board say that they cannot bring them to school?
Yep, on
And
school
not be
grounds.
part of the, this part of this.
Right. Eric, do you-
I was gonna, they'll just park on the streets around in the residential.
Eric?
If I may, I think, one of the things that we'll take into consideration if the council's in support of this map is we are going to take all factors as it relates to safety, equipment on the UTVs, ATVs. So your headlights, your blinkers, brake lights, looking at requiring having a active valid driver's license. So we don't have people trying to circumvent the laws when they have a suspended or revoked driver's license for alcohol usage. We've already been gathering materials as to what those kinds of restrictions would look like as we would present, because we want to make sure that, one, we present good routes to the DOT and then have a solid ordinance in line for you folks that address those issues when it comes to the safety and usage on the roads as well as youth using them. So for today, if you feel good with these routes, that'll give us the ability to take the direction, then work with the DOT to see if these routes are acceptable. And then it also gives us the framework to create that sample ordinance for you folks to take a look at.
Very well said. Thank you. Laura?
So as someone who deals with the high school traffic on a daily basis, I try not to go out at 3:30. I also live in a college student ward, and I have a lot of concerns about the high school students and the college students abusing this. I think it would be great to have routes coming into the city since the county is open. But I don't think that having every road, almost every road open is the right answer. I would be supportive of a limited route schedule, just because I want it to be focused down. It's easier to enforce if we have fewer, a very limited number of routes. My road is already pretty noisy. And I have not infrequently heard ATVs going in the backyards. And I don't think that there would be a lot of people in the city who would want the ATVs on their particular, this is a not my backyard thing. And I think we need to be very careful about how we approach this, because if we do say, okay, it's open to everybody, I think we'll get pushback. And then if we say it's open to certain routes, the people on those routes are going to be open to pushback, or you're going to be pushing back. So I want to go slowly on this and make sure we get a lot of feedback from our constituents on how to make this work. But I do think it's important that we do have routes into the city from the various county directions.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Randy,
I guess I try to look at this as like they're motorcycles. Most of them have four wheels now, but they are like motorcycles. I mean, I've been passed by electric scooters, those ones that they stand up on and are on the sidewalk, and I'm driving down the road and they're passing me. So I guess I just look at this and not everybody can afford these, so it's not like it's gonna be this gang of people with these all-terrain vehicles. I mean, they're pretty expensive and to maintain and to keep, so I like to treat them as a motorcycle, and some motorcycles are loud and some aren't. But I see, that's my perspective.
to caveat onto that too, if there are needing blinkers and taillights and those, that kind of limits some of the older noisier units, I would guess. And brings it more up to, the newer models. So I think that might be some help. But did somebody else have a question, Mary?
Looking at the map, I have a pretty high level of comfort with it. High school, college, I have just a little bit more concern, but I think that can be dealt with. But I think as a whole, if this is going to work, I think we're going to have to rely on the clubs and the parents and the aunts and uncles and this and whoever can influence somebody that maybe is acting a little out of line, to shape up and I think that we have to rely on a lot of self-policing in order for this to work good.
I think you're spot on there on that. I think the people that really care are going to make sure that people toe the mark. Lee.
Do we have any data that would tell us how many of these are going to be showing up on the streets? Down in my ward, which is River Heights area, I'm not aware of anybody that has one of these. I'm not aware of any trailering of them, and I'm wondering if there may be a little bit more concern than what's needed about the volume of these things.
There are two at the start of River Heights Road next to my parents. So I know two within a 3-house radius.
Is that your folks?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden there's going to be a million amount on streets. Eric, do you do something?
Yes, I think, I feel the same way as Mary does, and I have some issues with some safety concerns, I think everyone does. I do think the great idea is the limited time we're gonna put on this to do a test demo period, and then a lot of these answers will be answered, and we can adjust accordingly after that. So I would support this, I think.
Jeff, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm probably the only council member here that actually lives on one of the existing trails now on Cedar Falls Road. And we see several ATVs, UTVs go by our place. I have not yet heard one that is any louder than a Harley Davidson motorcycle or these little screaming crotch rockets that are out there. And they and they all seem to they obey the speed limit. They're doing good. I haven't had any of them ripping by. I see more 4-wheel drive trucks come down around across the tracks and doing 60, 70 by the time they get a my place. And by the time they get to Gene Davis's, they're back down to their 35. And they're noisier than any of these ATVs. So I don't think noise is going to be an issue. And I think people that are going to be using these trails are responsible adults. And if they have younger people in the group, all the groups that I've seen go by 5, 6 ATVs and UTVs at a time. They are younger operators, but they're with a group of, older responsible adults. So, they're not out there tearing it up. And this map, this is just to get, these guys, Steve and over here that live down on Shorewood, they're just driving up through Wakanda Park, probably at 15 miles an hour. They hit Wilson Street, they're on the trail. Right now, they got I think Steve actually stores his out of town on a trail. So I think, it's a good idea to open it up. And we can't just start you know, like Randy said, it's gotta be all or nothing. We can't have, okay, this neighborhood here is close to a school, we gotta shut that off. Well, then the guy 2 blocks away is open to go on his, and guy down the road's got a trailer, his 2 blocks to get to a trail. So I think we should just go with it all um, and also, I had a son that lived up in Balsam Lake, and their Unity High School, every road up there in Polk County is open to an ATV trail. Students are not allowed to bring ATVs to school. That's how they took care of their safety issues so, you know, we could have that. I talked to our school district and, you know, if we open this up, students would not be allowed to, you know, the high school itself would say no students can, you know, bring an ATV onto school property, and that would solve that issue.
Okay, good points, Gretchen.
I've lived in multiple communities that do allow snow machines and ATVs and all that. They're a lot smaller communities. And I think, I would like to caution everyone to be careful that not viewing future with the city open the same as the county. It is appropriate, I feel, for the county to have trails. It's less densely populated. The roads, the trails are in wide apart from each other. There's a big difference between a city block with uncontrolled intersections, of which accidents occur already. They don't have stop signs in a lot of my ward. There's a big difference between all-terrain vehicles on out in the county versus inside the city limits. And I understand the value to the folks that have them and the benefit, and I appreciate that it is a limitation, but I feel that in a city of our size, ATV use is not an appropriate vehicle. I can't justify approving ATV use in the city. It's kind of like you have certain benefits to living outside of city limits, and this, I feel, is one of them.
Okay, Matthew.
Yeah, 2 points here. I think it's important that, you know, we be an inclusive community and we don't alienate, you know, any of our constituents, and you know, that they can enjoy their hobbies as, you know, motorcycle bikers do, or dirt bikers, or people that are at the Red Cedar, pedestrians, cyclists, all that. And secondly, being a, you know, environmental health and safety professional my entire career in mining and oil and gas, one of the most inherently dangerous things that we do is driving. You know, doesn't matter where it's at, going 70, 80 miles an hour on I-94 with a cell phone and with Bluetooth and everything else. Driving, no matter what you're in, is inherently dangerous. Yes, ATVs do bring another inherent risk into the city. However, the controls that you put in place to mitigate those risks can help mitigate those risks, and that's going to be based on the ordinance that we put in, the language we put in, whatever control signage we put in there. And so I think we can make it work, do it for a year, and then we reassess the risk and, you know, evaluate the controls in place from there.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
Well, I'm fascinated by this conversation. One of the reasons that I think not opening it up to everything is that there are places where I think it is inappropriate to have these vehicles. You know, going around the cemeteries, going around the neighbors, senior home facilities. There are places where I think it would be inappropriate to have yet another type of vehicle going through these areas. So I'm still very concerned with opening up everything. I would support a limited route map, but I can't support opening up everything.
Okay, thank you. I'm making some notes. Just give me a moment. Okay, thank you. One more quick round, then I'm going to call the question. Anybody else have anything else they want to add to this? There's a motion on the floor to at least take a look at the map and move it forward. Like I say, we can add more restrictions onto this. However, it's very difficult after the DOT looks at it that we open up more areas. So I think we, in my opinion, we move forward with what we've got this evening. We come back with our set of guidelines. If the DOT, approves what we've got, we make the adjustments according to your recommendations, and then we see what we got. And if it's a thumbs up and we move it forward, great. If not, it doesn't. However, I think what we will do is we are going to invite community members to come in. We're not going to rush this through. We're going to take our time at it. But I think we need to keep it moving in order to find out where we're at in the process. So with that, I'm just going to do all in favor of signified by saying yes, and then we'll move forward. So all in favor of motion, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed?
Me.
Opposed.
Okay, duly noted. We got, okay, no problem. And so with that, David, we'll work on this. I do want to talk to a couple of individuals about possibly helping draft some ordinance language. Matthew, I want you to be in on that. And if there's, I think Randy and maybe Mary as council president. But anyways, we just want to have 3 additional helpers to help us support the drafting of the ordinance language. That would be my choices. And we've got some time, but we were going to move this forward, and then we'll be in touch and see if we can't come up with some rough drafts. So with that, we're going to move forward. Thank you. Okay, on the next, 6B, proposed ordinance 2024-08 on ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 7, 8, 9, residential side yard setbacks for corner lots. Mr. Schofield.
Yeah, so as we've looked at our housing ordinance or housing study, we've determined that we need additional spaces for houses. We do have a number of existing lots that are not built upon in the city. And so short of doing a subdivision plat or a CSM to create multiple lots, we felt like there's some opportunity to make existing lots more buildable. One of those is on our corner lots. We have a 25-foot front setback and a 25-foot side setback. If you have let's say a 67-foot wide lot, that cuts into what's buildable on that lot. And so one of the things that I would like to do, and I have on the agenda this evening, is to change the side setback on a corner lot in a residential area from 25 to 10 feet. So there's a ordinance on on the agenda here this evening. It would be for introduction. It would then go back to Plan Commission for review on the 28th of May, and then come back to City Council on the 3rd.
I think this is an easy one. Anybody with a corner lot would appreciate this. Otherwise, you can't really build anything on a corner lot. So with that, anybody want to introduce it and move it to Plan Commission? Ryland?
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Who decides what is the front and what is the side on a corner lot?
It depends on which way the front door is facing. So folks, it'd be your street address, yes. So people should be cognizant of that and face the house and essentially the short side of their lot, which is what we normally have. I think we had one here, the house that got moved from near the university. That one was on a house that was facing in essentially the wrong direction. But other than that, most of them are pretty good about facing in the correct direction.
That was a great question, Ryland. I would have never thought. That was a good one. Anyways, to me, this is a easy one. If anybody'd like to support this with an introduction and move it to Plan Commission, we can do that at this time. Laura.
I'd like to introduce ordinance 2024-08, amending Title 10, Chapter 7, 8, and 9, residential side yard setbacks for corner lots.
Perfect. Thank you. Would you like to make a motion to move this to Plan Commission as well?
And I would like to make a motion to
Right.
send this to Planning Commission.
Okay, good. Is there a second to Laura's motion? Lee.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 6C, proposed resolution 2024-12, resolution establish public participating procedures for the comprehensive plan. A lot of long, big words in that. But anyways, this is important that we take a look at our comprehensive plan and make some changes. And David, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so related to the last agenda item, we're going to be looking at our comprehensive plan, particularly the housing section. And in order to do that, we have to comply with all the requirements for public information, public participation. And we have to do a resolution, council does, to set that public participation plan. So this is a requirement in order to open the comprehensive plan. We don't anticipate that this comprehensive plan review is going to be a incredibly deep review. It's going to be a very shallow review, for lack of a better term. But we still have to go through the process of passing this public participation plan. So the resolution is on your agenda for approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. Eric, yeah, you got something?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Real quick, one of the reasons why we really want to do this, it does make us eligible for our Wisconsin Economic Development and Housing Funds, which is a real critical piece. In order to meet the state law requirements, as to show that we have made changes to our comprehensive plan to make things easier for development. This will allow us to work hand in hand with developers to try to be able to get them cash incentives to be able to redevelop areas and then help beautify our city. So we strongly encourage you to support this, as it'll help us attract more developers and access funds and grants on our part. And then eventually here in the next couple of years, we'll take a comprehensive look at the whole plan and then redo it. And the reason why we're not doing the whole plan at this time is the Department of Administration does not have all the current census data that we would need in order to do a full comprehensive plan change. Thank you, Mayor.
No, well said. I was glad you were talking at that point. Okay, so if anybody would like to support this with a motion, you can do so at this time. Mary,
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2024-12, a resolution approving public participation procedures for comprehensive plans.
very well said. Is there a second to that motion? Jeff Luther,
I'll second Mary's motion.
very good. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Moving on to the proposed resolution 2024-13, a resolution regarding alternate side lawn irrigation restrictions. Mr. Schofield.
I'm sorry. For those of you that weren't here last year, we did a alternate side irrigation restrictions in 2023. We have enough water to meet our needs for domestic use and industrial use. But when we get into the hottest portions of the year, we get a lot of irrigation usage. And of course, it all happens to occur on a Friday morning at 4 to 5 a.m. because they want it to be nice and green for the weekend. And so that peaking factor is problematic for us. So last year we enacted alternate side irrigation restrictions. It's based on your street address. So if it's my address is 1511, I can irrigate only on odd numbered days. So that it seemed like it worked pretty well. People seemed to get the hang of it. I think we talked to one commercial business, I think twice, and after that they complied. And then by doing this resolution early this year, we're hoping that as people set up their systems, that they set it up properly. I do anticipate asking for you to pass this resolution until well number 9 is constructed, which will probably be in 2027. So this is not the first nor the last time that you will see this resolution.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Schofield. Anyone want to support this with a motion? You can do so at this time. Ryland.
Yeah, I would like to support this resolution. Resolution 2024-13 for alternate side lawn irrigation.
Thank you, Ryland. Or is there a second to that motion, Gretchen?
I'll second Ryland's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Chad?
I just have one question. If somebody put in a new lawn, could they come in and get a variance if they wanted to?
Yeah, I believe we exempted new lawns for a period. And we also exempted, we're not going to go chase somebody who's spraying their kids with a hose either. So we did include some exemptions. Yep.
Good question. Thank you, Chad. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 6E, mutual aid agreement with Mayo Clinic Ambulance. Chief Klaus, are you prepared to speak on this evening? Okay, come on forward. Fire Chief Klaus? Class, sorry. You got class.
I've been called a lot of things. So the agreement before you tonight is the first official agreement that the city has had with the Mayo Ambulance Service. It is almost verbatim for all the mutual aid contracts we have with our neighboring ambulance services. With the closure of Sacred Heart and St. Joe's, Mayo put on another 1 or 2 ambulances, depending on who you talk to, and they thought this would be a good idea to have a mutual aid agreement, a formal agreement, so.
Great. So we have never had one of these before?
Not with Mayo. I have dug through a lot of records and
Oh.
can't find anything.
Well, hats off to you. Good job on getting this accomplished. Appreciate that. So with that being said, anybody want to support this? Rylan?
Well, what does the mutual aid agreement allow us to do that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do?
Yeah.
There we go.
We've been doing it since 97. Yeah, if they need help, we give them a hand. If we need help, which typically doesn't happen, but if we needed to call them for an accident or something, this is just the formal
handshake,
formal blessing to do it. So it
Eric?
really doesn't change operations that have been going on for years. So.
I would equate it simply, in the terms of how we have a master agreement with Cedar to provide engineering services. This just establishes the framework for what we've been doing with the Mayo. So both us and the Mayo understand what is expected of each other, and versus just kind of doing the wink and the nod and the handshake as we've done in the past, which has worked. But this helps protect both sides now as we move forward, since the healthcare landscape has changed so dramatically.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Mary?
Chief, are we confident that they're going to play nice?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and I'm not much on rumors, but they used to say that Mayo would cherry pick the calls that come in. And I don't know if that's true or not, but the fact is, I just want them to play nice with our fire and police departments and everybody else.
Same here. Same here. So.
That was good. The only caveat I would add to this motion, if anybody wants to make a motion agreement with Mayo Clinic Ambulance, would be to add upon legal review. So that way we can take a final look at it and be in good shape. So with that, if anybody'd like to make a motion, Rylan?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement with Mayo Clinic pending legal review.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Matthew?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Do we need a roll call on this? Okay. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Down to 6F, Wakanda Water Park 2024 concessions agreement with Jonathan Craning, DBA Wakanda Water Park Concessions. He's been doing it for a number of years. I don't know if there's a lot to discuss. David, you got your microphone on. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so this is an agreement that has been signed on several occasions in the past. I believe this individual has been doing this for over 20 years. I think everyone's been happy with him. We may look in the future at going out for proposals on this, but this is an individual that we've been happy with, so we'd recommend approving it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody want to make a motion? You can do so at this time. Mary, go ahead.
I don't know, maybe Mitch can answer this, or I don't know, maybe somebody else can, but does the concession stand have a serve safe certificate? I mean, does somebody have to go learn about the rules and regs of the state of Wisconsin Health Department? Do they get inspected? Does somebody come and inspect the concession stand?
I know they have to have packaged foods that are microwaved and different things of that nature. They're not preparing like hamburgers and stuff like that. But Mitch, do you have a?
Yeah, the Dunn County Health Department comes in every year and inspects everything, goes over all their equipment. Food, even one example that he used last year is he had to buy a whole new nacho cheese maker because it didn't get it up to like 145 degrees, only got to like 135. So they watch stuff pretty closely as to what can be served and what can't be served. And he's been doing it for 13 years and his father-in-law has been doing it before that.
Okay, thank you. Good.
I have a lot of jokes for nacho cheese, but I won't bore you with those. But anyways, okay, so if anybody'd like to make a motion to support this, we can do so at this time. Chad,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Wakanda Water Park 2024 concession agreement with Jonathan Croning. Doing business as Wakanda Water Park Concessions.
okay, is there a second to that motion? Laura?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Going down to 6G, proposed development agreement with Menomonie Holdings 1 LLC for industrial development in TID 18. Eric and David Schofield, either one of you, who would like to lead it off? Eric?
I can start it off here. So we've been in discussion with ELH 6 and the Menomonie Holdings Group about readjusting their development agreement based upon our TID 18 and mainly centering around the pond and the properties that are around it. Just to clean up the language, we've had a variety of amendments with this, and this helps simplify expectations as well as creating time for future development and incentives for Menomonie Holdings. To get into the weeds of what exactly are the changes as it relates to the pond and to the actual parcels, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Schofield.
Yeah, and I believe Brian Notoff is here as well from the developer side of this. So there's an existing agreement. There's actually, I believe, 4 existing agreements that have been amended over the years. This agreement will supersede all of those, will eliminate that kind of having to go back through documents going back to, I think, 2018, I believe was the first option on the properties. So on the north end, the developer will be acquiring lot 1 of CSM 4687 from it's a kind of a sister company. And then they will be purchasing lot 1 of CSM 4848. So if you can see my cursor, this area up here will be all owned by Menomonie Holdings. They will also have an option on lot 1 of CSM 5002. They can trigger that at any time over the next 5 years. We will be selling them outlot 1 of 5002 for $1. That includes the pond, which also is on outlot 1 of 5001. They will own, operate, maintain that pond until such time as the option on lot 1 is triggered. We would have a small share of the maintenance costs of that. But once that option is triggered, then it would be 100% their responsibility going forward. I'm going to call this phase 2 and this phase 3. On phase 2, as long as they build a building on that property that's worth over $2 million by December 31st of 2029, they would get an incentive payment in the amount of $200,000 towards that development. And then the same thing with phase 3 down here. Again, a building, $2 million value prior to December 31st of 2029, they would get a $200,000 incentive payment. So that incentivizes them to develop the property and incentivizes them to develop the property more quickly than maybe they would have otherwise without the incentives. And this is a group that has done quite a bit of work in the city of Menomonie. They've been good partners for the city. I hope that they think the city has been good partners for them as well. And so what's before you tonight is the development agreement that covers those items.
Okay. Mary?
Excuse me, Mary, can you turn on your microphone, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why are we selling lot 1 CSM 2000 or 5002 for $1?
That's the stormwater pond. And so we don't, until or unless, we really can't do anything with it, with the pond that's on that area.
They would be obligated for maintenance and whatever it takes. That's probably what sweetens the deal for the city, if I may be so bold. That's kind of bold, but that's what I think. Anything else? If anybody wants to support this with a motion, they certainly can. Otherwise, the floor is the council's. Lee,
I'll make a motion approving the development agreement of Menomonie Holdings One LLC for industrial development in TID number 18.
okay, thank you. Is there a second to Lee's motion? Rylan?
I'll second Lee's motion.
A motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Yeah. Oh, Matthew.
I take it we're selling that stormwater pond and drainage due to the fact that it's more of a liability. And do they take all of the liability for managing the stormwater, and they take the general stormwater, permit with them, and they have to comply with all the DNR regulations with that?
Yep, so they would have the maintenance going forward, except if for whatever reason the phase 3 option wasn't triggered, then we would have a portion of that on a prorated basis. But presuming that they trigger that option, then they would have 100% responsibility. None of our roads drain to that pond. It's all entirely private development that drains in that direction.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Nice question. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Last chance at asking any questions. A roll call vote, please.
Luther.
Here.
Here.
I
Yeah.
assume. Okay. Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwabs,
Yes.
Gantz,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlou,
Yes.
Erdmann,
Yes.
Sommerfeld.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, with one here. All right, 6H, here we go. Accept Wisconsin DNR recreational boating facilities grant for Point Comfort boat ramp and parking lot reconstruction. That's the one I would refer to as Butch's Bay. And they're looking at doing a complete renovation of the boat ramp, putting a dock in the middle of ramps on both sides, moving the existing dock to the north, and then a complete renovation of the parking lot. My question, I guess, tonight was to Dave, and I think I asked this question earlier, but for the council purview, were we talking about putting a boat wash down there as well?
We have to come up with a way of putting a boat wash in that doesn't require water. We do not have the cost. We do not have the water service, I should say. So we do not have the cost of a boat wash similar to the lakeside park. But we've been looking into some options in other places that have used like a backpack sprayer type thing with the bleach that's in that sprayer.
Oh, I see.
One of those things. I don't know that spending, let's say $60,000 running a water lateral across the parking lot would be the best use of our funds here. But I'd like to somehow find a way for the boat wash to be included.
Yeah, I remember asking you, I said, well, I'll work on it, but I couldn't remember what the work on it was. So, okay, thank you. So there we go. The thing about this is it's a matching grant. So if we can get this grant, then if we can match it, it reconditions that entire area, which truly needs it. So good work, David. And council, do you have the floor? Anybody like to support this? You can with a motion, or if you have questions, please go ahead.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, this will come back, you'll be sending it out for bids, it'll come back before council.
Yeah, so this is just accepting the grant. We'd still have to put this out for bids. At that point, we can determine what exactly our local share is. Right now, it's estimated around 300,000 would be the local share against the $244,000 grant. But we won't know for sure until the bids are back.
Eric?
And David, we would have time to go ahead and bond or take out notes for something like this in our capital projects, correct?
Yeah, the project has to be completed by, I believe, June 30th of 2026. So this would be a 2025 construction, most likely.
Thank you.
Very good. Good questions. Thank you. Rylan?
On the topic of putting in a water lateral, is there just not a main close enough down there, or?
We could pull it off of the lateral that serves the bathroom. But obviously the boat launch is by definition right on the water's edge. And so in order to get our water lateral down enough that it wouldn't freeze, we'd be excavating somewhere between 6 and 8 feet into the groundwater. That posed some problems at Lakeside Park, although that was set back a little bit further. And again, we did not have the cost in the grant application. So I would like to add, Cedar Corporation put the grant application together, I believe in 2022. It was not funded on the previous cycle, but they said, hey, could we keep this on hand for our next cycle? And we of course said, sure. And then it got funded this second cycle. So
Great. Okay. That's where we're at. Gretchen.
On if maybe a cistern situation on the topic of the boat wash, because zebra mussels were just discovered in the lake. And so being able to clean the boats in both main access points seems pretty important to our health of Lake Menomonie. So I would encourage any plans that involve being able to wash the boats.
Yeah, and I would too, but it's probably a scale and measure. I don't know if we can build a water tower down there, but or a lateral. But if there's a way to do it, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to do it. But for right now, the motion would be to accept the grant for the evening, and then we can move it forward and bring back more information at that point. Eric.
I'll put a motion in to accept the Wisconsin DNR recreational bowling facilities grant for Point Comfort boat ramp and parking lot reconstruction.
Good motion. Is there a second to that motion? Randy.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Eric.
Are both of you good with having the amount of the $244,191.50 in that motion as well?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
add that to the motion.
Thank you.
Randy.
Yes.
Very good. So it's embedded in the motion, the dollar value. Any other discussion? Need a regular vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving down to the next point of business. Consideration of cat fabric city hall generator proposal. This was an interesting one, and David will bring us up to speed, but appreciate his work on this. David.
yeah, so you may recall earlier this year, we decided to do some inspections of our generators. We have 10 generators. City Hall generator, as it's just outside my window, I can hear it starting up every Friday afternoon. And it didn't sound good. And so as they got into the inspections of it, they kind of confirmed that opinion. There's a hole in the radiator at the top of the radiator, and so it can't build pressure and it doesn't cool itself properly. So they went to do the inspections. They were not able to do the stress test because they were concerned that it was going to overheat. So they have proposed to replace the radiator in the amount of $8,518.68. This is not something that we had in our budget, so this would have to come out of contingency. So it's very large. It's probably about the size of the press table over there. It's not a small radiator. So we have this before you tonight, both to accept the proposal and to take the funding out of contingency.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield. All right, I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but the other generators, was there any other faults with any of the other ones that you found?
The Fire Station 1 generator had a water pump that was leaking. But other than that, they've actually been pretty pleased with the condition of the generators, considering I think we had some that didn't get a whole lot of maintenance over the years. We purchased well when we purchased those generators.
Good. Thank you. Okay, that brings us up to speed. Jeff Luther.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Cat Fabric proposal for the city hall generator repair in the amount of $8,518.68 to be funded from the contingency.
Sounds good. Matthew.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Ryland.
Did we get any other bids? I mean, I'm just a little baffled as to how even a radiator that size can be over $8,000 to replace, because I imagine it's not that much different than what's in a semi or something, and that I can't imagine those are.
Yeah, we did not get any other bids. We have a 3-year contract with them for this maintenance work.
Okay.
I felt like that kind of precluded us from going out and getting bids for the things that they find with those inspections.
And does then that work come with any kind of warranty or?
I don't recall.
And I said the same thing. Can't we just go out there and solder the whole shut on the top or? Well, but if you go and look at it, there's a lot to take apart to get to the radiator. So I don't know how much of it's radiator versus labor. Plus, these people do this every day and they know what they're doing. So I would guess that I realize it's maybe a little more than you're used to. But I don't pay that much for a whole car, so who knows? Eric.
Ryland, to ask you or answer your question about the warranty, it's a standard labor and parts warranty for 90 days on this particular item.
We only run it one day a year, so we should be good for 90 years then.
Well, that's my theory.
Yeah. All right. So is there a motion on the floor on this? Motion and a
sir.
second on the floor. Any other discussion? Do we need a roll call vote,
We
please?
do need a roll call. So Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwabs,
Yes.
Gantz,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlu,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther.
Yeah.
Pass.
Okay, great. The next one is the consideration of Bartengale City Hall HVAC proposal. Dave, our building inspector, is here tonight. I'm going to call him up to the podium. There's been a lot of work done on the valves and so forth. Maybe just a 1-minute overview.
Sure. I want to commend council. We just finished up on our third phase of the HVAC system and I can control it from my iPad. So as you can feel and hear tonight, it's actually nice. We have our air conditioning on. So we have 40 valves that don't open or close or are frozen. So I'd like to get those fixed so we can operate them efficiently.
I know that there's been air handlers and there's been just a ton of different things done. We're getting close, aren't we?
Yep, very
To-
close.
To having this building up and running to its top efficiencies.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's one of our goals is efficiency within the building.
Yeah, I'd like to even get I think this fall, we talked about getting our gas usage and our electrical usage. I know it was a warm winter. So I think if we go back 3 years or 5 years, really show us how, I mean, these variable motors that we have in here now, they run when they're supposed to and not when they don't have to. And it's just, and we can control the temperature a whole lot better. I mean, the thermostat that we put in, we didn't have a thermostat that told us what the outside temperature was to the inside temperature, and we have that now. So even last week when it was hot, we were still on heat, but the boiler shut down because it could read the outside temperature. Or before, I'd have to go shut valves off. We'd have to bear with the 90 degrees in their office, like Jamie got. And I mean, it was a struggle. And just in the last 2 weeks here with the new system up and running, it's amazing what you can do at your fingertips now to bring this up to current standards. I believe we're saving money every day.
Great. Thank you, Ryland.
Any idea how old the stuff on average is that you're replacing?
Well, some of the valves are original. Yeah, I mean, they're rusted shut. A lot of them are leaking too. They're dripping. So when they move, or they make noise, you hear them rattling, so some of our tenants are struggling with some of the valves. But I think they're original. I don't think they've ever been touched.
Well, good. Thank you. Oh, Matthew.
Do we know what the cost savings looks like and how long it's going to take to pay for itself?
That I don't. That is a good question though. A lot of this last phase was funded by a grant. It would be interesting, Mr. Crowe. Yeah, I don't, I'm sorry.
I think we're moving forward though. This is a great building and it's got a lot of potential. And it's a positive. So any other questions for David? Jeff?
These valves are as old as I am, and yeah, when you move, they
Creak.
click and crack and make noise and leak. So I'm gonna make a motion to accept the Bartengale proposal for City Hall HVAC based on bid and alternate number 1 in the amount of $35,740 to be funded from the contingency.
Go ahead. Thank you. Lee,
There's an alternative here to buy American first, so if this isn't American, where is this stuff coming from?
I
David,
believe, I believe it's Canadian, if I recall correctly. So, and we had them put that in there because if it was grant funded, it would have had to have been by American. If it's not grant funded, which we don't anticipate, or we don't intend to do, then it's up to council.
And I believe the valves were Siemens that they put into Stowe, and they're gonna keep using those. From when talking to Bart and Gale today when we did the switch over with the chiller. So I think they'll, I can't promise, but they'll meet the standards that we have installed already.
good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
And did come from Canada.
Canada. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Gentz,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlü,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Summerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yeah.
and Crow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving down to 6K, consideration of city finance policies. Eric, I think I got you down for that one.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you have presented in front of you today are three overarching policies that relate to finance. We are required to have up-to-date finance policies for our federal grants, in particular, our neighborhood investment funds, economic development assistance, and ARPA-related grants. These are needed for audits that are taking place and that are required because of the amount of money that we've been spending because of those particular grants. The three of them that are in front of you, one is internal controls. Internal controls is the policy that establishes framework for basically ensuring that we don't have one person controlling a transaction from beginning to end. As part of our generally accepted accounting principles are, we want to have that kind of a control in place so that way we can prevent fraud and theft. The next one is investments, and essentially that breaks down to making sure that we do not have all of our investments in one account. So if the account tanks, then we don't lose all of our city's money and financial backing. So we want to make sure that we have a diverse portfolio that can try to maximize the amount of interest rates that are available for our various investments. And some of those investments too cannot be commingled because of state and federal laws. The one that's a most significant update then is our procurement policy, and that is how we're going to be able to make purchases. And so it kind of gets to what Mr. Erdman was asking before about bids and other things like that in order to try to acquire the best possible prices, buying local, and those sorts of things to be able to ensure that, one, we're not engaging in any unfair practices, and that way also our department heads and those managers that are making those purchases know exactly what's expected of them. And then additionally, as we go through these grant auditing processes, we can demonstrate to the auditors that we do have a procurement policy in place. If council supports these policies, what that will do is that will allow staff like myself and our treasurer to be able to craft more granular procedures for how to make purchases that apply directly to our new civic enterprise software system that we're supposed to be going live with in August and September. So this is a big critical step for us in being able to move forward with our financial system. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Matthew.
Yeah, you're talking about, procurement controls. Do we know how much it costs us to process an invoice?
Depends how many people touch it.
Yeah, right now it's fairly considerable because we have a very low dollar amount that's in place right now for requiring a purchase requisition. So that generally requires a office manager or an assistant then to be able to draft the purchase requisition. They have to receive approval then from the department head to make sure that is something that they do in fact want to purchase and that there is money in the budget. Once that is approved at the department head level, then it is sent to the accounts payable person in the finance department. That person then verifies to make sure that there is money in that particular account, and then they'll issue said purchase order. Purchase order then is returned back to the department head or to that assistant or office manager. That office manager or department head then makes that particular purchase, and then that process comes back once it becomes an account receivable. Because of that, there are a lot of people that are touching it, which is okay because that's part of the internal controls that were originally established about 40 years ago here with the city. However, though, because it is such a low dollar amount, we have so many of these purchases that are going through and costs have gone up considerably over the last 40 years. This will allow us to be able to move more effectively, also in keeping with a lot of other municipalities that have the same kind of dollar levels. So as far as an exact dollar amount, we could start putting together exactly the amount of time it takes for each person to touch, but certainly one singular purchase can cost anywhere between $100 to maybe $500 to $1,000, depending upon the scrutiny of it. Because sometimes purchases will get back and ask, well, we want you to go out and get some bids or some written bids on this. So it can vary. It's hard to put a set dollar amount on each particular purchaser.
And these softwares can help significantly reduce the amount that we produce or process an invoice. down to
Absolutely.
Single digits.
For your perspective, when you're talking about the software system, our current enterprise solution for finances, our department heads and their office managers cannot see what their current budgets are that we can see. So finance department can, of course, see it through their software. I can see through another particular version. What that means is that a lot of times those department heads or those managers are then having to contact the finance department to verify that they have certain finances in place. Also, there may be times where a department head or an office manager will apply a line item account number to a particular purchase, but it doesn't quite align with what we need for our auditing purposes. So there may be changes. The new software allows everybody to be able to view exactly what they have live time for encumbrances, what's in that account, where that they may have to do a request for a transfer of funds, like a budget transfer or budget amendment. I feel that it'll allow for greater efficiency. It'll allow for greater accountability because they'll be able to manage their expenses much more efficiently. I think we'll also find places where we might even be able to save money. So I really think the new software system will be transformational for our finances here in the city.
Big
Lee.
op-
Oops, I'm sorry, Matthew,
It's
continue.
a big opportunity cost as well that people can work on other things too besides.
Well, that's what we think. We think it'll create a lot of extra time for people to be able to do professional development and to be able to cross-train. And right now, we just haven't had a whole lot of that. So if we do have a prolonged absence or someone retires or quits, it can become very challenging for us.
Jamie, our treasurer comptroller, how accurate is everything that Eric just said?
He's spot on.
Spot on. Okay. Lee?
What is this low level that we have to go through the circus and what are you looking to raising it to?
If you take a look at the policy, what we'll do is we'll set a framework at $10,000 for the purchase requisition. They still are going to have to be able to review through the new software system to see if that they do have those particular expenses. And we'll also be able to control on the accounts receivable. So it increases quite a bit because our current low threshold is $500 right now for a purchase requisition.
It seems very low.
It has been. I will say this in the defense of it. It does allow for a great control over finances to prevent any kind of a waste, but it also creates extra labor time, of course, then to try to manage that.
I think that system's been in place since, well.
Before Lowell bringing.
Lowell.
Yes.
1983.
1983?
Yes.
Okay, that was about the time I was born. Gretchen?
Younger than me, huh? Yeah, I feel it's super important to have the at least 2 touches, but the internal controls that are reasonable. And I think this enterprise system is going to be night and day for us because of that. I have a motion to approve the policies as presented.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Gretchen's motion, Laura?
We'll second Gretchen's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
No discussion? All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to special events. We have 2 special events. 6I, Let's Paint the Town and Pack the Park. Emily's here to talk about Let's Paint the Town. If we have any questions for her, I think it's a pretty exciting event. And Pack the Park. Mitch is here if we need to ask any questions about Pack the Park as our rec advisor. Otherwise, if anybody wants to support a motion, we can do that at this time also. Jeff Luther.
I'll make a motion to approve the special events permits as presented, contingent upon receiving certificates of insurance.
Okay, and that's for both events, Jeffrey? Yes. Both events. Let's paint the town, both events, let's paint the town, both events. Matthew?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Urban Forestry Board, Barbara Hawk, and Library Board of Trustees, Andrea Renata. Eric, do you know those people?
I do not know these individuals personally, but they came highly recommended. We have a brief summary of their background for your consideration for both particular boards. I do know that Ms. Renata from the Library Board of Trustees previously served in that role. We have Director Sturk here to speak on behalf of that. As far as the Urban Forestry Board too, I am unsure about her previous serving, other than she's been a former public employee that served in Barron County and is living in Menomonie, and she loves the outdoors. I think she'd be a great fit.
Great. Thank you, Lee.
Barb's my next door neighbor and I'm the one that twisted her arm.
So she comes highly recommended then, in other words. Very good. Anybody want to make a motion to support those? Ryland.
I'll make a motion to approve the Urban Forestry Board and Library Board of Trustees appointments.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Mary.
I'll second Ryland's motion.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Budget transfers, we do have a budget transfer in there tonight. If anybody'd like to make a motion to support. Eric?
Yeah, I can speak real quick to this one. This is a transfer from contingency into our recreation department. Sty is here to speak in case you do have a particular question about it. Essentially, what we're looking for is council approval to move approximately $4,000 into that account. With the retirements that took place at the recreation department, there was a bill that didn't get received by our department and went into a vacant email account from a previous employee. Now what happened is, so they have reached out to us and said that, hey, we would like you to pay the bills if you could. So we're missing a couple years of payments on there. And so that's what this is for, because we didn't know that this bill was hanging out when we did our budget last year. So we're asking for your approval to transfer that money from contingency into the recreation department. So that way we can make good on that payment. And Mitch is here, of course, and he can describe it in a little bit more detail, probably far more eloquently than I can.
That's the gist of it, though. If we want to pay it, somebody can make a motion to do so. And we'll move forward.
This also manages our online registrations too. So it's a critical piece of our recreation department to try to give a little bit more healthy background. I believe I neglected to mention that.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion to support this? We can do so at this time. Lee.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer for the rec department for $4,049.40.
Good motion. Thank you. Is there a second to Lee's motion? Randy.
I'll second Lee Marvin.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Give me just a moment here to get to my sheet.
Where's Kate when you need her?
I know this is why it's clerk's week.
It is too.
All right. So we're Yanko.
Yes.
Thank you. McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Gentz,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
and Sutherland.
Yes.
All right, very
All
good.
right. Good job, Eric. Okay, great. That brings us to the mayor's report. Just a couple really quick things. The governor was here and I helped him fill potholes last week. We got the entire city covered, so we're good. There's 2 less potholes in the city. Caitlin Engel, the communication specialist, hold up your hand. Yep, is updating the city website and social media accounts. So keep an eye out for that. And if you've got any input, please reach out to her or us. We have a proclamation regarding the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk is a time-honored and vital part of local government exists throughout the United States. And whereas the office of the municipal clerk is among the oldest offices in public servants, and the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at all levels. And municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And municipal clerks serve as the information center on functions of local governments and communities. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, and workshops, along with the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organization. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Menomonie recognizes the week of May 5th to May 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extends appreciation to the municipal clerks throughout the state of Wisconsin for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedications to the communities they represent. So City of Menomonie, Wisconsin mayoral proclamation for the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week. With that, we have tenant appreciation here from 3:30 to 5 o'clock, I believe, on Thursday. What that is we have invited all the tenants of the building to come down to meet and greet administration, for us to meet them, for them to meet each other. And we're gonna have a small little survey on, what would you like to see us improve on? What do you like about us, et cetera, and so forth. You're welcome to join us if you'd like, 3:30 to 5, tenant appreciation here in this room on Thursday. With that, I'll turn it over to the administrator. Eric?
All right, so a couple of things here. I'll be very brief since we still got a closed session ahead of us. We have department heads are working on their capital improvements already for the next 2-year borrowing cycle that we will consider for our budgeting process. And then additionally too, we've received feedback on employees that have been utilizing the extended family medical leave benefits that were granted here in the recent update of the handbook, and they've expressed their gratitude for it. So they're very thankful for it and express their thanks to you as well for supporting that. So thank you. That's all I have.
David?
Yeah, as Gretchen mentioned, we were notified that there are zebra mussels in Lake Menomonie. We found a couple of mussels on the docks that we removed last fall, and so we sent those in for confirmation, and they were able to confirm that they were zebra mussels. So we sent out a press release and some things on our social media. I did an interview with WQOW, and it was fantastic. You should definitely watch it. The electronic waste collection event was held, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We collected 25,000 pounds of electronics waste. Not all of it was Weld Riley, but at least some of it was. So, and then Megan is working with Stout for the furniture drop off. So I believe the next couple of days here, I can't recall the exact dates, and I think there's some information online about it, but Stout students can drop off old unused furniture down at the parking lot next to the soccer field. In previous years, obviously people have just kind of put it to the curb and expected someone else to take care of it. This is at least not necessarily eliminated that, but at least reduced it to some extent. So that's ongoing. And then we did put out on social media that No Mo May is here to stay. So obviously last year we did an ordinance upgrade or update in June of last year that we didn't have all that many complaints about No Mo May, and so now you don't need to sign up. You can just participate. So we won't enforce our long grass ordinance until June 1st.
We might need to push it to no more April, given the spring.
Okay, I'm gonna open up the floor to the council. Jeff Luther.
Yes, many of you know that I'm on the Mabel Tainer board. We've had some very interesting meetings the last 3 months. Special meetings, 3-hour long, 4-hour long meetings. So I was gonna let you know that what has been happening at the Mabel is the president of the board has been removed from the board due to accusations that was causing friction and hostile work environment for the employees in the spirit room. And since he was voted to be removed. 3 other board members have resigned. So we are looking forward to getting on some new board members that are gonna think of Mabel first and not themselves, and get Mabel back where it belongs. And the spirit room and the Mabel are gonna kind of separate. So the Mabel is not supporting the spirit room, which is gonna be good for the spirit room and the Mabel. And one last thing is, oh, they're working on the front steps. So they're replacing all the stone and putting it back the original, so the steps were where they were many years ago. That's all I got.
Okay, Matthew?
Yeah, I've had some feedback about parking in downtown Menomonie. We know it's an issue mainly with elderly and disabled handicap parking. Have, people have called and have even, sent stuff to me in writing, voicing their concerns, and that there's not enough of it, and especially on the main roads, on Main Street, and that there's maybe some additional parking, handicap parking coming in the parking lots. They would just like to see more handicap accessible parking, right by, like Ted's or the Silver Dollar, Raw Deal right on the streets there. And talked to, Mayor Knack about it today, and, something that we can bring up in a parking utility, meeting in the future, and maybe, move it forward from there to a council meeting.
Yep, thank you. Okay, council. Going around, Gretchen?
On a less controversial note, maybe, the Chippewa St. Croix Passenger Rail Commission, get the name correct, annual meeting is Wednesday, May 8th
What, Wednesday, I forgot, what time?
at 8:30 a.m. It's in the Dunn County Admin Building because we're one of the centrally located folks, but you can also access through Microsoft Teams meeting because there are a lot of folks from counties all along the route, the WISDOT, MnDOT, and at that meeting, there will be another review of where we're at, what we're doing, and all the updates from the FRA funding. So if there was a meeting that you're interested in and finding out what's going on directly from them versus through me or multiple people, that would be a good one to attend.
Okay, thank you. Going around the horn, Laura, Lee, Randy? Rylan, Chad, Mary, Cody? Staff?
No, sir.
Okay, let's keep on going. Moving on to claims. If we want to pay the bills, we need a motion to do so. There's an update, a revised claims list in front of you. So with that, revised should look like this one.
Should be dated 5/6
5/6.
on the bottom.
Yep,
Should have been the one set at your workstation.
there it is on the bottom. There you go. Okay. Jeff Luther.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the claims,
Okay, motion made. Is there a revised claims list?
the revised claim list.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Matthew?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to pay the revised claims list. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Gentz,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlou,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes,
Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko.
Yes.
Thank you. That moves us down to licenses, the normal license list. Nothing too out of line. Mary?
I would make a motion to approve the liquor license, the license list as presented.
Okay, good motion. Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second Mary's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And we need a motion to go into closed session tonight. So if somebody wants to make that motion. I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Thank you. Laura?
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session.